Alrighty, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, football fans. I'm Ryan Cato here with Trevor McVeigh, Hunter Thompson. I'm actually eating some wings on the podcast today. I got the burps. It's giving me a little bit of acid reflux. I'm not gonna lie to you, but that's not gonna stop me from talking about this week's NFL football. It's a hell of a week. We had some good games. We had some ridiculous games this week. We were just talking about it before the podcast started, but we're gonna bring you all of the good shit from this week, boys. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
We're feeling good, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Teams suck, but I'm optimistic. So.
Yeah, that's and we'll get to that in just a moment, I believe, because Trevor, you've got some news for us.
Yeah. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for listening. First big news of the day is good old Bill O'Brien got fired after an 0-4 start for the Houston Texans.
Fucking fine.
Sorry?
I said fucking finally.
Yeah, no kidding. I think I saw a rumor where like a lot of the guys that were in that staff, whenever they disagreed with him and he decided to fire them, he would just tell them to go fuck themselves and fuck off and like not be any kind of professional or respectful about it. It's just a rumor. Not sure if it's true, but that's no way to run a franchise if that's the way that he was running the place. No wonder it crashed and burned over the last like year and a half. Overall, I think this is the worst possible situation for Deshaun Watson. He definitely gets the raw end of that deal. And so they're probably looking to rebuild the next few seasons. And that's majority of the reasons because Houston didn't get a GM in there to save their franchise.
What do you mean? Bill O'Brien was the best GM we've ever seen.
Bill O'Brien made some of the most ridiculous and boneheaded moves. And I don't think I've even ever said that, boneheaded. But like I feel like I'm 70 years old saying boneheaded, but some of the most boneheaded moves I've ever seen ever. I mean, we've talked about it 1,000 times, but like the D-Hop trade was ridiculous.
Yep.
I mean, how are you going to let the only other person besides your franchise QB on your offense go and trade him for a second round pick in David Johnson?
Yeah.
Like I don't understand that, and they're going to let him ruin the franchise and then leave.
Yeah.
Like Mohamed Sanu got traded last year for a second round pick, and he now just got released by the San Francisco 49ers because he's old.
Well, like, even if you look at it, though, Stephon Diggs was traded for, was that 2 first-round picks?
I think so.
Yeah, I believe so.
And the thing is, like, D-Hop is one of the top 3 receivers in the league consistently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's arguably the best receiver in the league.
Yes.
Arguably, he and Julio are like that top tier.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to like receiver conversations in the league, and you're gonna let him go. I don't even know what, like, at this point when you fire Bill O'Brien, you get rid of the entire team. Do you even like think about putting Deshaun Watson somewhere else and just a full rebuild?
I'd say no because of the fact they just paid him that giant contract, and it's gonna be almost impossible to get out of. And the thing is, even if you didn't trade Deshaun Watson, that makes the appeal of hiring a good head coach even worse.
I
yes,
agree.
they don't have any picks, but you have a top 10 quarterback who's young and you already have locked down for a few years.
Yeah, that's the worst part. They traded for Laramie Tunsil and gave up a first and second round pick this season. So even with the front office and new regime coming in this next season, their hands are tied behind their back. So it's going to be a while before this team is actually competitive.
It's very scary to me that the Dolphins could possibly get the first pick in the draft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Dolphins who will not finish last in their division this year.
No.
Are could possibly get the first pick in the draft to back up Tua Tagovailoa, Devontae Parker, et cetera, and company. You know, that's, I mean, and Houston has what, a third round pick? They're picking at 60 something. I mean, I don't know. I'm scared for the future of that franchise, especially this coming up year. And whoever gets hired is going to have Deshaun Watson, but then I guess Will Fuller, who's got injury issues and is inconsistent. I mean,
you have David Johnson, who's starting to look like
injury
himself.
issues.
I mean, he's still looking like himself, which is good. like you have a couple good players on that offense
Still have
with
JJ Watt.
so you have Laramie Tunsil, you have Titus Howard, you have Deshaun Watson on offense, and those are three good core long pieces that a lot of teams struggle to find out because you have an elite left tackle and an elite quarterback. Those are the two biggest questions on offense most of the time.
Sure.
On defense, though, you have nothing.
Yeah, and aging JJ Watt.
So you have Zach
I
Cunningham.
like Zach Cunningham. I like him.
You have Zach Cunningham and JJ Watt for the locker room, which
But they can't.
good. But
They
the
haven't
thing is, like,
they haven't done shit so far this season.
Yeah.
The Texans have been behind the 8 ball in every single game that they've played.
well, see, that's what I'm saying though. Like they have these good core pieces, but now in this draft, you have no way to get rid of the dead weight that you have on roster. It's honestly a very similar thing to what we're going to see with Atlanta, because Atlanta has some good pieces all the way around, but the positions that they're not confident in or kind of weak at starting wise, we're not going to be able to like we can't like Atlanta can get rid of that dead weight. Houston can't.
Yeah, I think it's I'd argue though that the Falcons have a much stronger core, offensive weapons as compared to the Texans, as well as like at least a couple of pieces on defense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think the
so
rosters are that close.
And so like I think Houston has legitimately one of the worst rosters in the league. Aside from Deshaun Watson, who's 25, so still very young. But I don't know. That scares me, and it scares me to think that someone is going to have to come into that job. I mean, Romeo Crennel is their interim coach.
Love me some Coach Romeo.
I love him too. I like Coach Romeo. Do you think that they'll keep him? Just keep him as head coach.
Never hire the interim.
Yeah, no. I agree.
I mean, unless they're so convinced that they're not going to have a chance to hire one of these big name guys, that you keep Coach Romeo around as just kind of like we have a scapegoat to fire next season type guy.
Who would you call the top prospects or the top candidates rather?
Eric Bieniemy is the first choice. Greg Roman's getting a lot of the hype because of what he's done with Lamar Jackson. What's his face? Do what?
Robert Saleh.
Robert Saleh's getting attention, and the Bills OC. I cannot remember his name right now.
Brian Dable.
Yeah, him. Those are like the four big names. Jim Schwartz has gotten some weird hype.
There's some college names too, like Lincoln Riley, Ryan Day, Matt Campbell.
Yeah, but there's no way Lincoln Riley's gonna dip. He just signed that massive contract last offseason.
Oh, the way Oklahoma's playing right now, I would not be too surprised.
That man was given the entire state of Oklahoma, pretty much in that deal. So I don't think there's any reason he's leaving. I could, weirdly enough, see Dabo Sweeney come up.
That'd be interesting.
If say
that would be nice.
If the team picking first overall is like, hey, we want you and Trevor Lawrence to build our team around. Would that be tempting? Like if you're Dabo Sweeney, would you consider leaving all that you've built at Clemson to go to a New York Jets, essentially the Jets job? Yeah.
That's tough because he's been wildly successful in Clemson, South Carolina. He's kind of like a god there. And for him to come into the NFL, I don't know. I don't like. I feel like at that point, is it just like an ego thing? Like you could be like, oh, can I do this? It's got to be right. Like I personally, I wouldn't leave Clemson for shit.
But everyone's convinced Dabo is going to leave Clemson for the Alabama job whenever Saban leaves. But the hard part was always like the big argument why everyone was like, oh, that'll never happen is how do you leave Clemson?
Yeah, what's the point?
Well, that's the thing. In his contract that he signed, there's like some kind of big buyout thing or like some kind of clause in it. Like if he goes to Alabama, I don't know if it's just an SEC school. It's like some kind of big buyout of some kind.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing is, like if he goes to the Jets and then stays with the Jets for a couple, maybe doesn't do as well as he expected, a la Chip Kelly, he could potentially then slide right on down to the Alabama job, which he would still get in a heartbeat.
Dude, I'm not leaving Clemson for freaking New York Jets.
Yeah,
I don't care if I get Trevor Lawrence.
I just don't. I mean, that would be interesting though if it was Trevor Lawrence gets drafted and they hired Sweeney. That could be a very interesting situation.
Yeah, that'd still be a hard no for me.
I think the only way you would consider it is if you're going to the team that's going to be picking Trevor Lawrence. I think that's the only way you can consider it.
But even then, that's a scary situation for sure. And we kind of talked about we talk about every week pretty much, but the jobs that are continuing to be in jeopardy, including the Falcons job, including the Jets job, which we're talking about right now, and after this last weekend, I think Matt Patricia's in danger too.
I think Matt Patricia's been in danger.
Well, yeah, but I think he's seriously in danger now.
I also think Doug Marrone in Jacksonville is a name that's in danger.
I don't know. I feel like after the first 2 wins of the season,
they're 1-3.
I thought they won the first 2.
Nah, they're 1-3 right now.
My mistake. Maybe it's not as great as I was thinking.
Still, though, I mean that's a pretty empty team when it comes to talent. They got rid of a lot of their big stuff at the beginning of the season. We talked about that too, like tanking for Trevor, and then they haven't looked as bad as we expected.
Yeah.
Even being 1-3, they haven't looked as bad as we expected. I think that is a dangerous job, but I think that's also a rebuild program. And so they're slowly. I mean, with James Robinson, undrafted free agent James Robinson, looking good. One of those things. But I do want to get into games of the week before we get too far in this coaching conversation, because I think this could be a whole episode. Us talking about the coaches in the NFL and which ones are gravely in danger of losing their jobs. And we'll probably actually get into some more of it when we talk about games of the week. But I'd love to hear from games of the week. Trevor, do you have a game of the week for this week?
Oh, most certainly. Actually, mine's going to be kind of a double thing for my backup of the week. It's kind of cheating at this point. But I went with the Los Angeles Chargers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Sure.
The majority of what I want to talk about is just freaking Justin Herbert. I believe he was my QB3 coming into this season, behind Burrow and Tagovailoa. And I honestly thought it was like a big step down between Tua and Herbert, but man, has he looked good the first 2 starts of his career. It trended on Twitter. I saw it, that off his back foot throw under pressure hits. I'm not even sure which receiver it was in stride for a TD. Was beautiful. And he went shot for shot with Tom Brady in Tampa. I'm honestly so impressed. He went 20 of 25, so that completion percentage is crazy, for 290 yards and 3 TDs. He threw 1 pick.
I mean, the 80% completion.
Yeah,
that's off the charts.
Crazy. And then he led their team in rushing with 14 yards. So he had no run game to help him. So it was all on him, and they scored 31 points on his back. That is a fantastic performance from him. So since he technically is behind Tyrod at the beginning of the season, I'm putting him as my backup of the week too. But then you got Tom Brady on the other side of the field, threw 5 TDs to 5 different receivers in this game. That's so impressive. That never happens. Ronald Jones gets to start at running back since Fournette's out. He's been technically their starter, but he got almost all of the carries this week, and he had his first over 100-yard game, I believe. Really good performance from him. Hopefully he can back it up the next coming week. But overall, this game was really impressive for both sides, between Herbert and his second start ever and Tom Brady throwing 5 TDs. I'd love to go back and watch this game.
Yeah, I do want to note too the 3 touchdowns that Herbert threw in this game were all to undrafted free agents on his team.
Oh my gosh.
All 3. And they were all one shots. One reception, 72 yards for Jalen Guyton and a touchdown. 1 reception, 53 yards to Tyron Johnson and a touchdown. 1 reception, 19 yards and a touchdown to Donald Parham, the Titans. As well as
never been done before.
connected with Keenan Allen 8 times for 62 yards. So, an excellent showing going all across the board. Like you said, no run game to back him up, as well as Eckler getting hurt this week. If they're not picked up in your league, Justin Jackson, Joshua Kelly are good pickups, but I would imagine that they're already picked up as they've already been parts of the passing game for the Chargers. But week by Herbert, and man, I was wrong about him. So, yeah, Hunter, if you he shook his head, he said, "Yep, that's about it. That's what I got on it, Hunter. If you don't got anything on it, I'd love to hear your game of the week."
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Herbert, like, it's just so many people were so wrong about Herbert, but like all over Twitter, you see all these Justin Herbert stans out here talking about how great he is and how they were right and everything. And it's so interesting to see how polarizing he was as a prospect and how he's really panning out. Because, I mean, honest, he's looked incredible. He really has. But he's still looking like a rookie who probably should not be thrown into the fire right off the bat at times. He's still missing some of the easy throws. His footwork and mechanics still have the inconsistent flaws that we all saw. And it's what we were expecting, though, out of Herbert. We knew he was not the perfect prospect when he was coming out. But it blows my mind that Anthony Lynn is still like out here talking about how Tyrod's still the guy, Tyrod's still the starter, and that even though Herbert's been playing great, how all Anthony Lynn really seems to give a shit about is winning, which is obvious, like, and that makes sense. But the fact that Herbert's been getting really no praise from his head coach is
weird.
So mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. That was what I saw with Herbert. That was the problem I had with Herbert, was footwork and mechanics. His film's super good. Otherwise, he looked very impressive in college, but I was just nervous about him coming in. I tended to like Jordan Love more, who hasn't started yet. So, that's still up in the air. Who knows? Maybe I'm a genius, but Justin Herbert has looked excellent, and I see no reason that Tyrod should be touching the field anytime soon.
Taylor's not putting up 31 points against Tampa in Tampa.
Hell no. Hell no. Not a chance. The Chargers, they play Monday Night Football next week against the New Orleans Saints. So that'll be a good game. That'll be an interesting game. That's what I'm saying. That's what I kind of like that.
Brew Brees versus Herbert in a shootout.
I did mention the Saints Lions game this last week about Matt Patricia, but Drew Brees did throw one long ball last week, so he can still sort of do it. Through to Traquan Smith, but we'll see how he looks against the Chargers defense coming up this next week. Hunter, I'd love to hear about your game of the week.
Yeah, so my game of the week is going to be Dallas versus Cleveland, and probably for different reasons. But this game was the absolute fucking wildest game I got to watch this week. Like, Nick Chubb went down for the Browns, and, at that point in time, like, you think, okay, cool, Browns are now officially out of it. I guess we're going to see Cowboys kind of take advantage of this. The entire Browns backfield rushed for they pretty much took over. I think they rushed for like almost 200 yards.
300 yards. 300 yards.
Oh, Jesus. I was off on that one.
Gosh.
Yeah. Well, Browns rushed for 300 yards against this beat-up Dallas defense. Baker was slinging it around. Hell, we saw Jarvis Landry drop a bomb to OBJ. It blows my mind that you let the Cleveland Browns offense put up 49 points on you.
Yeah, I do want to bring up, and I'll bring it up in just a moment after I talk about this real quick. But D'Ernest Johnson, which we'll talk about later, 13 carries, 95 yards coming in for Nick Chubb. Kareem Hunt had 2 touchdowns. OBJ, 73 rushing yards and a touchdown, as well as that catch from Jarvis Landry. So absolutely insane. But speaking of defenses, and we're talking about this game because that was an absolute shootout, like 49-38, ridiculously high scoring game. Do you think that Dallas's defense is the worst in the league?
It's up there.
Yes, I'm gonna go yes. The only other candidate really is Atlanta, but Atlanta's isn't as much like Atlanta doesn't. Yes, Atlanta allows points. However, Atlanta's just pure ineptitude when they're playing. the difference like between Atlanta and Dallas is like Dallas is actually trying and they're not able to get anything going. Atlanta literally is so inept when they are playing defense. We saw that last night. Somebody was talking on Twitter about how Atlanta was running the cover none defense. It was a play by Rodgers, and he literally had 3 open guys downfield, and there was a cluster of the 3 defenders supposed to be covering them, all right there in between them all.
Yeah, we blitzed, and then we had man coverage behind the blitz, and it was horrible. Like, one guy completely fell. Other guys didn't even communicate, so there's just 2 other people that were completely wide open. It was honestly just embarrassing.
There are 3 teams that have given up over 130 points in the NFL so far. It's the Jets at 131, the Falcons at 138, the Cowboys at 146.
I still think Jets are the worst.
The Jets are bad. But the problem for the Jets is the offense too. The Jets offense has put up a league worst 65 points in 4 games.
Oh,
that's an average of 16.
Man.
Oh, I'm sorry. Correction. Not the league worst. The Giants put up 47 in 4 games.
I was about to say, I think the Giants would be worse.
The Giants put up 47 in 4 games, but I don't know. The Cowboys do have hurt linebackers right now, as well as a hurt corner. Trevon Diggs playing at one of the worst levels of any corner in the league, which is confusing for a first-round pick.
He's a second-round pick.
Or second-round pick. But
so high on Trevon Diggs.
I know you were. And that's no, I even in my head, I subconsciously trusted you, and I was like, oh, you must have been first round. But didn't Damon Arnett went first round? Is that correct?
Yeah, Damon Arnett went first round.
The Raiders,
that one threw me. I thought it was
21 overall.
That one confused me. Yeah. So, but the Cowboys looking very, very bad. What's confusing to me is 2 of the better offensive cores in the NFL, in Atlanta and in Dallas, have some of the worst defenses to back them up in the league. Mm-hmm. You have great skill, of course, but you have great skill positions in both teams. The Falcons, yeah. Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, Todd Gurley is an injury concern, but looked good. Matt Ryan, and then the Cowboys. I mean, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Ezekiel Elliott, and the best line in the league, and you can't win games. Yeah. So very confusing. Still, NFC East still up in the air. Ridiculous game though. Ridiculous game between those two teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. One little sidebar that most of y'all won't care about, but the funny thing is, all 3 of our number 1 picks in fantasy were McCaffrey, Saquon, and Nick Chubb, and they've all either been on IR or out for the entire season. Not a great start for us.
Shit show.
It's
an absolute shit show.
Still 4-0, bitches.
You still are 4-0. It's you're looking very impressive to start the season, Trevor, as well. We're not going to talk about my team.
Whiskey Diggs, baby.
But
Diggs.
We did it. Whiskey Diggs. It was Suck My Diggs, and I decided it was time for new name, new destiny. I changed it to Whiskey Diggs after my boy Stephon Diggs, and I'm hoping that'll turn my season around. But I'm gonna have to do something's gonna have to happen. Robert Woods is gonna have to start catching 2 touchdowns a game for me to turn my season around. It's looking like shit so far. So,
Kato,
my game of the week though.
Yeah,
there we go.
Week,
look at that. We're on the same page. You and I are on the same wavelength. This is not the last time I'm going to talk about this, and I talk about it every single fucking week because I guess I have a hard on for Joe Burrow. But the Bengals Jaguars game was my game of the week. Very much enjoyed watching the 2 gunslingers. I never thought I'd say that about Cincinnati and Jacksonville, but Minshew throwing for 351 yards, and Joe Burrow throwing for a clean 300. although every single week I talk about how Joe Burrow is so good and can't win a game, it wasn't Joe Burrow this week. Joe Mixon with
Yes,
three
sir.
touchdowns. Three touchdowns
Two.
in the game. 2 rushing, 1 receiving. Had 151 yards on the ground. 6 receptions, 30 yards for Joe Mixon. So an incredible game from the skill positions in Cincinnati, and I'm like looking towards the future for Cincinnati. I'm very hopeful. I think the minute they fix this line, which should be next draft, I think they pick the best tackle available. And they put up that line. The skill positions are looking excellent. I mean, you've got Joe Mixon, Giovanni Bernard is a good little check down back, and then T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd both looking very, very good. AJ Green doesn't exist anymore, apparently. But I'm super hopeful for this Bengals team. Not even a Bengals fan. I'm just cheering for him because I love me some Joey B. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, boys.
I mean, obviously, like it's been awesome to see Joe Burrow be able to step in and play immediately how he did. Some people were concerned about his 1-year production, and were worried he would be a Mitch Trubisky type player at this level. So it's been great to see him step up. I love seeing T. Higgins start to become more and more part of the passing offense. As you know, or as our longtime listeners know, we have loved T. Higgins here at the backups.
Love T. Higgins.
But it was cool to see Gardner Minshew also kind of slinging it around and playing pretty well. It's weird. The whole Gardner Minshew dilemma is weird when it comes to the draft situation. Because if you're picking top 5 or like even top 3, you know, or I guess first overall pick is the only pick you could justify. If you're picking first overall for Trevor Lawrence and you have Gardner Minshew, who's been playing at a good level, it kind of gets weird. Like, do you toss him to the side, or like do you try to trade back and get more picks? Or I don't know, just like that dilemma and situation just gets weird. At this point in time, I don't think Jacksonville will be picking first overall. But the fact they're 1-3, it's still in the realm of possibilities.
Yeah, it's for sure up there. I think Jacksonville's going to end up with 5-6 wins, something like that. Maybe 7 wins if they're lucky, depending on the rest of their schedule. That would be hopeful, But I don't think that there's a chance they pick. I don't think that they pick top 5 to end this season.
Yeah, that was going to be my argument. If they pick top 5, I think you have to go QB. If you're outside top 5 and Gardner kind of keeps up the same level of play, I think you can ride him out and just kind of build around him. The guy I want to talk about is I want to talk about DJ Chark. I think he was a 3rd-round pick, I believe, and he had a little bit of a breakout last season. It was kind of like a good shining spot for that team last year, but this year he's really come onto the scene, and he's made his presence known. He's their wide receiver 1 by a lot, and he's makes a lot of solid catches. He's a playmaker, and I really like to see him grow. And then Chenault, who I honestly wasn't too high on, but I mean, he's been so good. He's been solid the last couple weeks, and I love to see that from him.
I think he's really solid in his role. Laviska Chenault's very solid in his role. They have him playing all sorts over the place, and we talked about that actually. That he'd be a great gadget player for any team, but I mean they have him rushing out of Wildcat. They have all sorts of stuff. But he had I think 5 for 86 this last week. So looked really good.
I love seeing Chenault actually stepping up and just being a weapon for that team. He's so fun to watch.
Agree. Yeah, he's been excellent so far to start the season. Excited about that Jags team too. Some young talent on that team. Hopefully, we'll see them improve into the future. Both of those teams. Excellent game from Cincinnati and Jacksonville this week. We're gonna go into a quick break. Coming back, we're gonna be talking about surprises of the week as well as backups of the week and what we saw this week. Maybe a little. So we'll be right back.
What's up, football fans? Ryan Cato here. coming at you live again from my bedroom, getting the editing done on this beautiful Tuesday night. Just wanted to remind you, follow us on Twitter at the Backups Cast, as well as on YouTube. You can find us at the Backups Cast as well. Pretty much anywhere you look, Twitter, YouTube, any Spotify podcast, Apple Podcast, anywhere you can find your podcast, you'll find us at the Backups Cast, all one word. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to Brian Lamb and the ISN Podcast Network, where we'll be hosted for this NFL season. And before I get too ahead of myself, we're going to get right back into the action. So stick around.
Welcome back, football fans. Ryan Cato here with Hunter Thompson, Trevor McVeigh. We're the Backups of Football podcast, but you already knew that because you're here listening to the theme music coming right in. We're going to get into surprises of the week. You just heard about our games of the week from week, what was this, 4?
Week 4,
I get so lost. I get so lost in quarantine season. I don't even know how many fingers are on one hand. Like I'm very confused. I don't know how to count anymore, but surprises of the week, I'd love to get into it. We started with Trevor last time, I think. So Hunter, if you want to talk about your surprise of the week, let's rip through it, baby.
Yeah, so my surprise of the week, similar to my game of the week, is going to be focusing on the Browns and the Cowboys. But unlike, the whole focus of the Browns being good and putting up 50 points, the focus of it is going to be on Mike McCarthy of the Dallas Cowboys. He got hired to essentially take this Cowboys roster and team to the next level from Jason Garrett. And he's just not doing that. They're 1-3 with a league worst defense. Zeke is kind of playing like shit. They've not looked very convincing, even offensively, in many of their games. Yes, Dak is throwing for a stupid amount of yards and stupid amount of touchdowns, but you were hired to take this program to the NFC East. You're supposed to be winning NFC East championships, and now, don't get me wrong. You're supposed to
be winning the NFC.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're supposed to be winning the NFC, and don't get me wrong, the NFC East is not out of the question, but that's just out of the pure shittiness of the rest of the division. Philly sucks.
It's garbage.
Giants suck. The fact Washington has a chance to win this division is it's insane. Like, there's no reason this should be happening. Dallas realistically should probably be at least 2-2 right now, probably 3-1, but that's beside the point. But they need to be they should be at the top of the division, and they're not. And I don't know if that's just Mike McCarthy having a transition period or what, but it's so shocking to watch a team that everybody predicted to win the NFC, especially me. I predicted them to win it, and them look like an absolute joke of a team, and have them honestly competing for the number 1 overall pick right now.
Yeah, I think that's a strong possibility, or a strong statement, and a possibility for sure. I mean, they're 1-3. They're not as bad as the Giants, who are, but they don't look good. They look so bad that, I mean, I don't know if it's a scheming thing, if it's like you're bringing up Mike McCarthy. I don't know if it's his issue, but they need to figure it out quick, because if they don't win that division this year, I'd be so shocked. They should not. There should be no reason that Dallas doesn't win the NFC East, the easiest division in football, with the talent that we already talked about on that team. Shocking to me that and that they let the Cleveland Browns put up 49 on them.
Yeah, I think my surprise with that would just be how bad the entire division is. I mean, I didn't love Daniel Jones coming out of college, but after what I saw how he finished last season, I really expected a solid year for him coming into this season, and it has not been there. The turnovers are still there. I think he threw another interception or two, and he fumbled again for a loss. I don't think he threw a TD Actually, no, they scored 9 points. They didn't throw a TD this week. So he hasn't been good. And then Dwayne Haskins, who I kind of relatively liked, he hasn't been good. That whole team hasn't been good. And then Philly, I mean, they've got the injury bug right now. A lot of their guys are hurt. But, I mean, Carson Wentz, we've talked about the last couple of weeks, hasn't played very well. I will say he played better than he has. Probably his best game of the season was this past week, which wasn't that great, but it was still pretty decent compared to the earlier. Then Dallas, this should be their division. I mean, they're putting up a good bit of points every week, but the defense is so bad, they're not competitive.
Yeah,
It's just amazing, like so shocking, so surprising how bad that division is.
for that to be division to be as up in the air as it is yeah, insane to me. Speaking of Dwayne Haskins, I do want to say that Dwayne Haskins actually, with as much I do talk a lot of shit about Dwayne Haskins, I don't like him. I do not like Dwayne Haskins. So I want to make that clear. Dwayne, if you're listening, like, I don't like you, but he did throw for 314 yards this week, and connected with Terry McLaurin 10 times for 118. No touchdowns. I mean, he ran for a touchdown, but no passing touchdowns. But against the Ravens defense, I mean, it's
So he
not
had a
awful,
decent
but
day though.
he had a
okay.
decent day. He had a decent day. You throw for 300 yards, you're having a good day. That's, I mean, I think that's like a pretty good benchmark for a quarterback. I don't know, that division is such a train wreck. I like it could be a 6-10 team that wins that division. That's how bad. I mean, absolutely awful.
A 6-10 team could be sitting here having home field advantage in the playoffs.
Oh my gosh.
While a 10-5 or while a 10-6 or an 11-5 NFC West team has to play them in the wild card.
Yep.
How ridiculous is that? The 49ers or the Rams or the Cardinals or whoever it is could have to play a 6-10 NFC East team.
With the expanded playoffs this year, do you think there's a chance we could see all 4 NFC West teams?
I think it's a possibility. I mean, those are 4 good-looking offenses. I felt really good about the Rams so far, actually. I've watched all their games so far, which has been cool.
Yeah, Arizona's
not
kind
even
of
a
been
Rams
struggling in the last couple of weeks, though.
They are 2-2. And I actually do want to bring that up for surprise of the week, so we'll get like into it and we can talk about it. But the Panthers putting a 31-21 on the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray only threw for 133 yards, ran for 78, 3 touchdowns, but Teddy B looked great. Mike Davis, even Reggie Bonifant. I couldn't even tell you who that is. I don't know anything about him. He's an undrafted free agent out of Louisville. But they all looked great. The Panthers offense looks really good. Robbie Anderson, almost 100 yards again on 8 catches. Even Curtis Samuel had 51 yards. DJ Moore 49 yards. So a good showing by the Carolina Panthers. And when we were talking about coaching earlier, and we can continue to talk about it if you want to. I'll talk about coaching for 3 more fucking hours. But I wouldn't be surprised if a sleeper candidate for coaching jobs would be Joe Brady. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I could see him like being a big time sleeper for the Cincinnati job if Zach Taylor gets fired.
Ooh.
But other than that, though, I don't really see him being a candidate for many.
That's not bad though.
If the Panthers, I don't think Zach Taylor's going to get fired. I think Zach Taylor is kind of settling into his skill positions that he has. The defense, who has young players on it, Logan Wilson, Akeem Davis-Gaither that we've talked about before, both rookies that are good cores for that defense. I don't think Zach Taylor's getting fired, but if the Panthers offense continues to improve like this, if they continue to look this good, even without their best player, I think Joe Brady's a sleeper candidate. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing from this Carolina team a lot. Matt Rule's his first year as a head coach, and I honestly wasn't too high on him coming out of college. But so far it's been a really solid year for him through 4 weeks. Teddy B and Robbie Anderson, I didn't think they were going to mesh very well because I didn't think Teddy could really do the deep ball, which is what Robbie was kind of known for coming from the Jets. But they've really had a solid connection the first quarter of this season. And then Mike Davis might be the story of the last 2-3 weeks because McCaffrey goes down, he grabs those reps and he puts up. It's not McCaffrey numbers, but he's putting up better numbers than a good majority of running backs in the league right now, as far as touches and yards and scoring. So overall, this Carolina offense is fantastic. And then Arizona, who looked really hot the first couple weeks, have kind of slowed the roll a little bit and lost a lot of momentum. And maybe they could be the team to drop out of the NFC West. We'll see. But overall, I was really, really happy with how Carolina's played this week.
Yeah, the thing with this season, Matt Rule, we all knew what Matt Rule did in college. He built Temple, he built Baylor back to being relevant. So obviously, I liked the hire when he got hired to Carolina. I didn't love it, but I didn't think it was a bad hire, and I thought it made sense. At least I think I said that. I don't remember what I said on the previous casts, but who knows? But long story short, Matt Rule's one of those guys that it seems like players want to play for him. He seems to get out there and he seems to connect with his players to the point to get the best out of them. And it's really cool to see. It's disappointing to see from a Falcons fan perspective, but it is cool to see first-year coaches really stepping up and getting the best out of their players.
Yeah. I'm going to jump to I'm going to do a blind setup for you. So I'm going to give you've got a home game and your opponent on a short week has got to travel to your stadium and they're starting their third string quarterback. They are missing their wide receiver 1 and I believe their running back got hurt. Actually, no, never mind, he played. But you have them on a short week and then they come in with their third string quarterback and they beat you on Thursday Night Football. And I'm talking about the New York Jets. I know we've talked about them last 2 to 3 weeks of how bad they are. But honestly, it's just incredibly impressive. Yeah. They scored an offensive touchdown, and that was honestly a freaking beast mode run by Sam Darnold for an 84-yard touchdown. Or 46-yard touchdown, excuse me. He had 84 yards rushing. But then the only other touchdown that was scored was looks like a pick six, I think. Or maybe fumble recovery. I'm not sure. But there was a defensive touchdown. And then they kicked 5 field goals at home against a beat-up Broncos team who beat them 37-28. And it's honestly surprising to me how bad they are. Adam Gase needs to be fired this very second. And I would rather, I think, have Sam Darnold, even with him being traumatized right now, be the head coach over Adam Gase. They are that bad.
The Jets are awful. Melvin Gordon, we talked about this before the cast, but Melvin Gordon, big numbers this week, 23 carries, 107 yards, 2 touchdowns, big numbers this week. But every receiver on the Broncos is hurt. Noah Fant also hurt this week. So right. It was Jerry Jeudy and Tim Patrick. How are you going to have 2 white boy first names and still put up yardage on the Jets? It's absolutely ridiculous. Tim Patrick, he's a more of a typical X receiver. He's 6'4", but 113 yards on 6 receptions and a touchdown against the Jets defense from Brett Rypien. Who was terrible. He was not good. They had 242 yards and 2 touchdowns, but threw 3 interceptions. 2 of them to the same guy. And you're gonna let him put up 37 points on your team? Good Lord. The Jets are a shithole. I wouldn't want to go. I wouldn't trade I would die before I went there. It is absolutely terrible. So it's fascinating to me. I don't even know if it's surprising anymore that the Jets are this bad, but it's definitely fascinating.
Yeah, every week I sit here and say I don't know if the Jets can get any worse, and every week they progressively get worse and
Every
worse.
week.
And I know I'm going to sit here and say this again. I don't know if they can get worse than this, and I'm sure next week they're going to surprise me. But right now, I don't know if there's any way you can honestly. There's no reason you should have lost that Denver game.
Bro, my former Houston Roughnecks could beat them right now.
I wouldn't be surprised. At this point,
You and your damn Houston teams.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, bro.
Jets do not look good.
Except the Stros. Fuck the Stros.
Yeah, fuck the Stros. I mean, they're cheaters. Yeah, but I mean, to be fair on the Jets, I do want to note something. I thought the Jets were kind of a fantasy wasteland, but Jamison Crowder did have 7 receptions for 104 yards.
That's respectable.
He's been looking pretty good this season.
That's something. He's not looked bad. So that's a nice little. I mean, so everybody drafted him, but I just thought it was an interesting little piece there. I do want to get into backups of the week. If you boys want to get going on that, Hunter, I know you want to talk about Cowboys Browns again, so I would love to hear it from you.
All right, we got the trifecta this week. I know it sounds like I only watched the Browns and Cowboys game, but I promise you that is not the case. That was just a weird game to me. But my backup of the week, well, I'm going to say backups of the week, is the entire Browns backfield. The fact they rushed so well and so efficiently without Nick Chubb was incredible. Dearness Johnson, I believe was his name. He was incredible. I was watching that game earlier today, of course, and he was constantly just taking over the game whenever he touched the ball. So Dearness Johnson is my backup of the week. I'm excited to see what he can do during this period of time with no Chubb. So,
yeah, the backfield ran all over that Cowboys defense, like we talked about earlier. Even OBJ getting some action with that end around touchdown. Kareem Hunt obviously has looked amazing to start the season, and he's like their RB2. But yeah, Dearness Johnson also. If you are looking for a little bit of running back depth in your league, Dearness Johnson might be a good waiver wire add this week when it comes to running backs.
Yeah, their skill positions are insane. Like their wide receiver core is better than most teams. Their running back core is better than the majority of teams. Their tight ends are better than the majority of teams. It's crazy how good their skill positions are and how deep they are. QB, not so high on, but the rest of the skill positions are fantastic on that team.
Yeah, and I mean, a QB like Baker Mayfield doesn't have to do too much when you have that kind of stuff around you. He just has to go out there and throw the ball and hand the ball off. So he has to run the offense. But Trevor, I'd love to hear about your backups of the week when it comes to this week.
Well, my guy was going to be good old Justin Herbert, but I think I'm going to change it. I'm going to go with Damian Harris, rookie out of Alabama.
Yeah.
This is his first game in the NFL. Had 17 carries for 100 yards even. He came in. I mean, it was solid. I'm going to punch it right down the middle, and I'm going to get yards on just about every run that I have. He ended up breaking one for 41 yards. But, I mean, he was kind of like the sole bright spot of that Patriots offense on Monday night. Not anybody else really was that impressive, especially Stidham and Hoyer. Hoyer looked bad to me.
Yeah.
But Damian Harris, I think, would be worth a fantasy pickup if you got a deep league and if you need some running back depth. But I was really encouraged by him this week.
Yeah, Damian Harris definitely took on the Sony Michel role this week. He was just the bell cow that giving them the ball. Got no receptions this week, absolutely none, because Rex Burkhead and James White are taking those over. That's a pretty crowded backfield. But yeah, like you said, one of the only bright spots on that bad. They looked bad. The Patriots looked bad. The offense without Cam Newton.
Yeah, Cam.
No quarterbacking. The defense fairly impressive, I thought. To only they gave up 26 to the Chiefs, but that's one of the more high power offenses. So I'd say that's pretty impressive.
I mean, the only sack of the game for the Pats was Hunter's boy Chase Winovich.
My boy Winnow. But
You
the thing
love
is,
Winnow.
I love Winnow. Well, like honestly, I'd sit here and say the Patriots defense did better than like just above average. I think they had played a hell of a game because they kept the offense in it most of the game when Brian Hoyer was in.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I like I said, holding the Chiefs to 26 is not
Well,
an
was,
easy task.
It was 6 at halftime.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, Bill Belichick's notorious for taking away your like safety net, I should say, and he took away Travis Kelce. I mean, he really did not perform well in fantasy this week, didn't perform well on the field. And I think that's mostly because Bill Belichick didn't allow him to, because that's how good he is at scheming against people.
Yeah, I mean that is always Bill Belichick's goal: take away the strongest point of the other team. And Travis Kelce, they were saying during the broadcast even, like what are you thinking when Travis Kelce jogs off the field? And the other reporter said, "Thank God," because Travis Kelce is that much of a terror over the middle. You saw that one hit on him coming across the block coming across the middle, just got like railed by a defensive lineman, like absolutely torn up. So they were scheming against him all night, and it didn't allow the middle to open up, or the middle to be closed off so that the sides could open up for the speedsters. But 26-10 still by the Chiefs, so off to a rip-roaring season, as always, as of recent at least. Chiefs looking excellent. My backup of the week is... There we go. My backup of the week is from the Monday night game. I know you guys don't want to hear about it, but fire Dan Quinn because Robert Tonyan.
Who?
Exactly. Robert Tonyan.
I don't want to talk about it.
Put the schlong on the Falcons defense. That's a nicer way to say it, I think. I think that Robert Tonyan had 3 touchdowns against the Falcons defense, 6 receptions, 98 yards. And Aaron Rodgers really can't do it with anybody. No Devontae Adams, no Alan Lazard. His main weapons being Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, that backfield, and then MVS, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. But Robert Tonyan stepped up, like I said, 6 receptions, 98 yards, and three touchdowns. So maybe they didn't need to draft a receiver because they're doing it with everybody.
They're playing Atlanta defense. I mean,
yeah, but the
anybody.
The Packers have gotten off to one of the best starts in the league. The Packers look like a Super Bowl contender out of the NFC. Have scored 152 points through 4 games. So. Looked very impressive, but Robert Tonyan, depending on Devontae Adams and Alan Lazard's status next week, Robert Tonyan might be a good look at a pickup in a league if you're struggling at tight end.
Yeah, I'd never heard of Tonyan before this week, admittedly, but I learned to know his name because just about every other play, it felt like he was scoring a touchdown against Atlanta. I think this game could have been a lot worse if Atlanta didn't have like a 40-minute drive. I know it's not 40 minutes, but it might as well have been, and just to get a field goal. But otherwise, Aaron Rodgers would have had the ball in his hand more, and he probably would have thrown it to Tonyan just more. He had 6 targets on 6 catches for 98 yards and 3 TDs. So I don't know if you can be any more efficient than that. I don't think you can. And Tonyan is pretty. Hopefully, he'll be a good fantasy pickup for most people. We'll see because they are playing Atlanta defense, so anybody can pop off from any week. But overall, it was a really nice showing from Tonyan.
Yeah, Tonyan obviously showed out, but the thing, like, I've just been hung up on the fact you talked about the Atlanta opening drive where they took up 10 minutes and got a field goal. and it's just a 17-play, 10-minute long drive resulting in a field goal.
That's Super Bowl caliber right there.
I said
Chiefs,
it earlier,
here we come, baby.
Atlanta plays with such ineptitude, and it's just mind-blowing how poorly coached that roster is.
Well, at least the offense has been decent so far this year. I'm not gonna say good; it's been decent. But the defense is so bad; it's not even funny.
The entire roster is coached so piss poorly.
Oh
But
yeah.
I'm gonna stop ranting about that because y'all hear that from me every single week.
You hear it from all of us, but fire Dan Quinn.
Fire Dan Quinn.
Fire
Fire
Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn.
Every single week, fire Dan Quinn. Maybe it'll happen this week. Who knows? The Falcons coming up. Who's their next opponent? That's the Carolina Panthers, who we just talked about. Their offense is getting rolling. So, you know,
they got momentum.
I honestly want to say though, if you're looking for some streamers in each of your leagues, if they're playing the Falcons defense or the Cowboys defense, you might as well just add them. The Cowboys do play the Giants next week, so maybe not there, but if you can pick up some Panthers, that might be maybe even Teddy B as a streaming QB next week, because we might be about to see some numbers. Absolutely terrible defenses.
And the Falcons just lost their starting free safety as well. They're down all three starting safeties.
Yeah, it's a train wreck. It's a train wreck for a lot of teams, injury wise this season, but not every team has the worst defense in the league. So, well, that's about it. That's all we have for the episode. If you boys have any final words, I would love to hear them, and we can finish this baby up in just about an hour.
Yeah, this was the first week I haven't been disappointed in the Falcons because I expected us to lose. So, fire Dan Quinn. Thank you for listening as always, and Hunter, on to you.
Fire Dan Quinn, and fire Dan Quinn.
I liked your first, second, and third point there.
Okay, those are all good.
The only thing I'm looking forward to about the rest of the season is draft season. Thank God. Check out my work on Draft Right.
True.
Yeah, that's what I got going. Follow us on Twitter and all that fun shit.
That's what I was about to say. If you want to check out those articles, you can follow all of our Twitters. The Backups Cast is our podcast Twitter, and all of our Twitters are in the bio. You can find us there, as well as our YouTube channel. All this stuff goes on there, so you can see our beautiful faces, as well as maybe hopefully some content soon. Maybe we'll try to put out some rankings and stuff like that coming up. But I do want to end the episode in the best way I know how, which is fire Dan Quinn. And thanks for listening.